The Prime Minister's official spokesman saying that Rishi Sunak's thoughts are with those families involved in the submersible lost in the North Atlantic and that the Foreign Office is providing support. It's now estimated there's less than 55 hours oxygen left with the rescue for 5 people on board before the supplies run out on the sub. The vessel named Titan set off from the coast of Newfoundland on Sunday morning to visit the wreck of the Titanic. But it lost contact about an hour and 45 minutes into the dive. Now, among those on board, we know British billionaire Hamish Harding and the UK-based Pakistani businessman, one of Pakistan's richest men, indeed, Shahzada Dawood, and his 19-year-old son, Suleiman. Let's get more with our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, who has the latest for us, because, Paul, we are learning more about those on board and their background, and also the pilot, this Frenchman, who is, well, his nickname is Mr. Titanic. I think his first expedition to the wreck was 1987. Yeah,
he's 73 years old. His name's Paul-Henri Nargeolet, and, yeah, he knows the Titanic inside out, which is why he's got this nickname, so he will know more than anyone on that vessel about on the submersible and the Titan about the wreckage itself. So we're learning about him. You mentioned the Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, who's actually been in the UK for many years. Lives in the UK. He's on board with his 19-year-old son Suleiman. We know that he has links to the Prince's Trust. They've actually issued a statement in which the chief executive Will Straw has said they have a long-standing relationship with Mr. Dawood and his family. They say they are shocked by this awful news, praying for a rescue and sending our thoughts to his family during this deeply challenging time. He's an advisor for the organisation's Global Advisory Board with a focus on their work in Pakistan.
Yeah, and clearly one's thoughts go out to those on board, but also their families waiting for news, because we've got, I think, the US Coast Guard operating out of Boston with the US Navy. We've got the Canadians coming from Newfoundland, but that's still 370 miles from the nearest port to get to the location or the last known location of the sub. Yeah,
and it takes an awful long time to get to the wreckage of the Titanic. And once they get there, it takes about 2 hours for this submersible, which is about the size of a transit van, about 22 feet long. There's no seats inside, so the 5 of them will be crammed into this tight area. There is a toilet and, crucially, 96 hours of oxygen, so we have about 2 days of oxygen left. Theories are possibly it could have... we know that after an hour and 45 minutes, by the way, on its journey downwards, that's when they lost communication. Yeah. So it could well be near the bottom. Now, if it is near the bottom, it's the only 5-man submersible in the world that can reach those depths, 2.4 metres down where the Titanic sits. So if it is on the bottom and they are alive and there is enough oxygen, it is going to be a race against time to find the right submersible or vehicle to get anywhere near that depth to try and retrieve.
I mean, we understand there is a US naval vessel that can go down to, I think, about 20,000 feet. Yeah. But clearly that, I think, from what I understand, is unmanned. So they will have to try and organise some kind of remote operation to see if the Titan is snagged on something, or if one of its power units or propellers has got problems. Because this is the very nature of the submersible. It's not like a submarine where you've got control to actually bring it up and down from inside the craft. You've got to do it remotely.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. This submersible does have some electric thrusters, so it can manoeuvre around a little bit, but you're absolutely right. You're going to need another vehicle to attach itself and to effectively bring it to the surface, and that will have to be done robotically. But yeah, if that is the best case scenario, is that it's, of course, the other flip side of that is that it's floated to the surface. It's had some sort of malfunction. It's on the surface, and then it's just a question of spotting them from the air, and of course that means that the search and rescue operation could take longer, and that the crew inside and the passengers on board, they will have longer. But at the moment, this is all very speculative, and we're trying to... It's difficult. It is difficult. They're saying that the conditions in the water are good at the moment in terms of visibility, but that can change very quickly in that part of the Atlantic.
Yeah, and just to touch on Hamish as well, we hear from Janika in a moment, who has been on previous operations with him, but he's been down to, I think, the Mariana Trench, the deepest point of the ocean. Spent 36 hours down there, so he'll have gone through these circumstances before. even though it wasn't an emergency. So perhaps he can actually, add a little bit of psychological support to the rest of the crew.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you're going to ask him this, but I'm wondering if, and I'm assuming the chief executive of OceanGate, who is on this submersible, they're the company that own this, I'm assuming he was piloting it, that he knows about how the craft works. Whether he will be trying to eke out those if they can stretch those 96 hours of oxygen even further by reducing their breathing and reducing the amount of activity.
Well, and the fact, of course, it's the CO2, the carbon dioxide that you produce. Thinking back to the Apollo 13 film, the scrubbers that you need to actually clean the atmosphere as well.
The atmosphere as well, yeah, exactly. And I don't know what sort of filters they will, how can they construct them? I don't know. But there's very little space to work with on there, and time is of the essence. Yeah.
Paul, thanks for updating us for the moment, but of course we'll bring people the latest as we get it. Of course, we've got this Joint Rescue Coordination Centre in Halifax, Nova Scotia, overseeing things.